Good morning to my dear students of class 7, and I am glad to welcome you all to today's botany class. Today's topic is going to be about heterotrophic nutrition. What is today's class about? Heterotrophic nutrition. You have already studied more about autotrophic nutrition because all plants undergo the process of autotrophic nutrition as they produce their own food, right? So in this topic, in this botany class, we are going to learn about heterotrophic nutrition that exists in plants. So let's get started. The word hetero means another. Auto, what is auto? Auto means self, right? We have studied about autotrophic nutrition in plants, no? So what is auto? Auto is self, which means by itself. Similarly, hetero means another. Hetero means another, and trophos means food or feeding. What is trophos? From the word heterotrophic, you can split into two. Hetero is another, trophic or trophos means feeding. Okay, so how you can define heterotrophic nutrition? Heterotrophic nutrition is when one organism depends on another organism directly or indirectly for food. This is nutrition, right? So we have to define in terms of a nutrition. Say for example, there are two organisms. If organism number 1 is going to depend on organism number 2 for its food directly or indirectly without itself producing its food, if it is going to depend on another organism for food, then you can call that type of nutrition as heterotrophic nutrition. So what is heterotrophic nutrition? When one organism depends on another organism for its food either directly or indirectly, then it is called as heterotrophic nutrition. You have to memorize this definition. Clear? So what have we seen till now? The word hetero means another and trophos means feed, and you can define heterotrophic nutrition as when one organism depends on another organism for food either directly or indirectly, then you can define it as heterotrophic nutrition. Usually, you know, plants are all autotrophic, right, which can produce its own food. They have chlorophyll and they undergo the process of photosynthesis, right. So, usually they do not depend on other organisms for food since they produce their own food, okay. But in some cases, that is in some plants alone, though they can produce their own food, to some extent they depend on other organisms also for their food, okay. I'll repeat, some plants, usually all the plants can produce its own food, but some plants sometimes will depend on other organisms for its food, okay. So that type of nutrition is heterotrophic nutrition, and usually this heterotrophic nutrition is of three types called parasitic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition and symbiotic nutrition. What are these three types? These three types are heterotrophic nutrition types present in plants. Plants are usually autotrophic nutrition, but sometimes when they can't prepare their own food or when they need some other organism's help, it will undergo heterotrophic nutrition also, and they are of three types called parasitic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition and symbiotic nutrition. So in today's class we are going to learn in detail about parasitic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition and symbiotic nutrition. All of them are heterotrophic nutritional types. So we will start with parasitic nutrition. What is parasitic nutrition? When one organism lives inside the body of the host. Here we have two organisms. One is called, organism number 1 is called parasite, okay, and organism number 2 is called host. Both of them are living organisms. It can either be an insect or human being or plant. Actually, when we give examples all, it doesn't mean that it is the only example existing in the world. The example what we give or explain is the one which is given in your textbook, but in reality, in the real world, you have many parasitic relationships. So whenever you can find two organisms, after I explain, I'll tell you. So in this type of relationship, one organism is called parasite and the other organism is called host. Both of them are living organisms. So when one organism lives inside, when the parasite lives inside the body of the host, this is also a living organism, this is also a living organism. When organism number one, that is the parasite, is living inside the host, and what it does inside the host? Obtain nutrition from the host. The parasite will get into the host, live in the host, and will derive the nutrition of the host. Are you clear? Say for example, we have in our human body, I'll explain then, but this is botany, no? So the example given is only about the parasitic relationship in plants. So for your understanding, I'll give one example. Say for example, there is tapeworm in the intestine of the human being. Usually small children all, when they don't eat, no, we'll check for worms, right? So usually if there are worms in the body, in your stomach or intestine, you don't feel hungry all. So this insect, that is the tapeworm, is a parasite now. Who is the host now? The human being is the host. Clear? So when a tapeworm lives inside the intestine of the human being, that is the host, what it will do? Why it is inside our intestine? Whatever food we eat, no, that it will take as its nutrients. Whose nutrients? Tapeworm's nutrients. What we eat is taken by the tapeworm. Now tapeworm is parasite, human being is the host. This is example in the case of animals. Okay, so here we are going to learn about the example in plants, how parasitic relationship exists in plants. So what is the definition? When one organism lives inside the body, that is inside the host is another living organism. Why this word is given, the host is another living organism? It insists that the host is never dead. Host is also a living organism, one more living organism. And what the parasite does, it obtains nutrition or nutrients from the host. This definition also you have to memorize. When I give the example, you will understand better. In the next slide, we will see the example for this parasitic type of nutrition. What is the example given in your textbook? A plant called as dodder plant. What is the name of the plant? Dodder plant. This is the dodder plant. Can you see like a wire? Usually climbers have such structure, this wire like structure. Okay, so dodder plant is also such a plant. This thick stem, can you see? It is another plant. Okay, this is the host, which is the parasite here. The dodder plant, this structure, no, this wire like structure, it is the dodder plant. Which is the host? This thick structure, this bark like structure, no, this is the host plant. There are two plants here. One is dodder plant, another one is the host plant. Okay, so what happens here? What dodder plant does? This dodder plant has a special feature. It has sucking roots. What is the special feature of dodder plant? It has sucking roots, and the roots are called as haustoria. The roots, usually we call roots as roots, right? But this dodder plant alone has special type of roots which are called as haustoria. What is the special feature of haustoria? They can suck the nutrients very well. Usually all the roots can absorb nutrients from the soil all, but this sucks more than the other plants' roots. Okay, so here dodder plant has haustoria, which is sucking roots, and what they do, they live on another plant, that is the host plant, which is a autotroph. This dodder plant, what it does not produce its own food. It will depend on an autotroph. This thick bark, no, plant number 2. This plant is an autotroph which produces food. So what this haustoria or dodder plant does? The dodder plant will suck the nutrients from the host plant, that is the autotrophic plant. And you know the conducting tissues are xylem and phloem, no? The roots will penetrate very deeply that it reaches the conducting tissues, that is the xylem and the phloem. Phloem is the one which will transport the food, right? So this plant will enter into the conducting tissues of the autotroph or the host and get the nutrients. So what have we studied here? The example for parasitic nutrition in plants is the relationship between plant number 1, which is the daughter plant, and plant number 2, which is the autotroph. So who is the parasite here? Daughter plant is the parasite. Why? Because it is benefiting from the host. Okay, so who is the host here? This autotrophic plant is the host. Plant number 2 is the host. So this daughter plant has special roots called haustoria, which can penetrate deep into the autotroph, into this plant. They have roots which will penetrate into the autotroph or the host and suck the food from the conducting tissue. So in this relationship, one is benefited from the other. The parasite is benefited from the host. This is about parasitic relationship. What is the second type of nutrition we have seen? Heterotrophic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition, right? So second type of nutrition is saprophytic nutrition. We learn the definition first and then we'll learn about the example for saprophytic nutrition. So saprophytes, this term is familiar to you. We have learnt many times in other parts of your textbook. So saprophytes means if one organism can feed on dead organic matter. What is dead organic matter? There are dead animals, there are dead plants, like the leaves fall daily, no? To the floor, the leaves fall. So there are many plant and animal remains in the surface of the earth, no? So if some organism can feed on the dead and decaying matter, then that organism is called a saprophyte. So some plants can undergo saprophytic nutrition, that is they can absorb the nutrients from the dead remains. Have you seen in your garden when the leaves all wither down, no? When dried leaves fall down, what your mother does? Does she burn the leaves? Most of them, what they do, they collect, they sweep the leaves, they collect and again near the stem or the root of the plant only we put again, right? Why? Because after some days it will decay and it will act as a manure or nutrient for the plant again. Okay, that is a type of saprophytic nutrition. One plant gets nutrients from dead and organic matter. In the previous relationship, that is the parasitic nutrition, what we have seen, both the organisms are living organisms, no? The parasite and the host, both of them are living organisms. Here, the relationship is between one living organism and dead organisms, because dead organisms will only have dead organic matter, no? So the other one is dead. So this living organism gets the nutrients from dead organisms, then it is called as saprophytic nutrition, and the dead organism will contain organic matter. So when organisms feeds on dead organic matter, it is called as saprophytic nutrition. So what happens to this organic matter? This organic matter which the dead organism has is broken down into inorganic matter. So it is converted into inorganic matter. Why? Only when it is converted into inorganic matter, the plants can take them as nutrients. If it is going to remain as organic matter, it cannot, the plants cannot absorb the organic matter as nutrients. Only the inorganic form of nutrients the plants can absorb. Okay, so how it is converted into organic to inorganic? With the help of enzymes. Okay, with the help of enzymes only this can be converted. From where the enzyme comes, we will learn in the next slide. So what is saprophytic type of nutrition? When a plant or any organism can feed on dead organic matter, then it is called as saprophytic nutrition. The dead organic matter cannot be consumed directly, so it has to be converted into inorganic nutrients first. It is broken down into inorganic nutrients, and then the inorganic nutrients can be absorbed by the plants as their food. Okay, so this is saprophytic nutrition. What about the example for saprophytic nutrition? The example given in your textbook is a flower called as Indian pipe. See, this is the flower called Indian pipe. What it does, this plant has one peculiar feature. Usually plants have chlorophyll in them, no, they can undergo photosynthesis, but this plant does not have chlorophyll, and obviously if there is no chlorophyll there is no photosynthesis also. Okay, so what is the example? A plant called Indian pipe, which has no chlorophyll and no photosynthesis, will depend on saprophytic type of nutrition. What it will do? The roots of this plant, that is the Indian pipe plants, will have a fungi in them. A fungi can grow in the roots of this Indian pipe plant. Okay, so this fungi, what it will do, the surrounding dead and decaying matter will have organic matter, no, it will convert that organic matter into inorganic nutrients. Why? Because this fungi has digestive enzymes which can convert organic matter into inorganic matter. Where is this fungi found? In the roots of this plant. Okay, Indian pipe is the name of a plant which produces such a type of flowers. The roots of that plant will have fungi, and that fungi can convert organic nutrients into inorganic nutrients, and then this plant will take the inorganic nutrients as its food. Why it is taking inorganic nutrients as its food? Because it already does not have chlorophyll, it cannot undergo photosynthesis, so it is not the autotroph, it undergoes heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Clear? So this is about saprophytic type of nutrition. Next we learn about symbiotic nutrition. In symbiotic nutrition, you can define symbiotic nutrition this way. It is a relationship between two organisms. In parasitic nutrition also it was a relationship between two organisms, right? One parasite and the next one was host. What about saprophytic nutrition? One organism is alive and the other is a dead organic matter. The relationship between that is saprophytic. What is symbiotic? It is a relationship between two organisms which live together, always they live together and they have mutual benefits. What is mutual benefit? Mutual benefit means somehow both are benefited from each other. So say for example, there are two organisms, organism number 1 and 2. Okay, there is organism number 1 and organism number 2. So this 1 and 2 always live together and one is benefited from 2. What is mutual benefit? If one has some advantages from 2, then 2 will also have advantages from 1. That is called mutual benefits or mutual relationship, right? So these two organisms will live together and one is benefited from 2 and 2 is benefited from 1. So in turn both are beneficial to each other. This is called symbiotic type of nutrition. Where you can find such a relationship in plants? Example given is the relationship between a bacteria called as rhizobium. So the organism number 1 here is rhizobium. The first organism is rhizobium. What is rhizobium? Rhizobium is the name of a bacteria. Where you can find this type of bacteria? You can find in the nodules. See, usually in some plants called leguminous plants, this is a leguminous plant. What is leguminous plant? You must have studied in your lower grades also. Like the plants called peas, beans, all no, they are called leguminous plants. Okay, so leguminous plants have a special feature in their roots. The roots of leguminous plants will have a special feature. What special feature? They have small bead like structure. Can you see round circles here? So these round circles are called as nodules. What is it called? Nodules. What did I tell you? The roots of leguminous plants will have bundle like structure, they are, or bead like structure, they are called as nodules. Okay, so inside this nodules only this rhizobium bacteria is found. Clear? So in the leguminous plants there are root nodules, a bead like structure in the roots. Inside the root nodules you can find this bacteria, that is the living place of this bacteria. Okay, I told you in this type of relationship, symbiotic relationship, organism 1 is benefited from organism 2. Okay, Okay, so I told you organism number 1 is rhizobium. What is organism number 2? Who is organism number 2? The plant is the organism number 2. Okay, this plant is organism number 2. Okay, how they are mutually benefited? How this rhizobium benefits the plant? What it will do to the plant? It will fix the atmospheric nitrogen to the plant. Nitrogen is present as a gas in the atmosphere, no? That atmosphere is converted by this rhizobium into nitrates and it will give to the plant. Okay, because leguminous plants are poor in taking nitrates from the soil. So this rhizobium, what it does, it will take nitrogen gas from the atmosphere, make it into nitrate, because nitrogen gas directly the plant cannot take. What gas the plant can take? It can take only carbon dioxide, right, for the process of photosynthesis, that also. So what rhizobium does, it will take the nitrogen gas and convert it into nitrates and give it to the plant. Okay, now the plant is benefited from rhizobium. Now how it is benefited? The rhizobium gives nitrates to the plant. Okay, in turn the rhizobium bacteria, what benefit it gets? It gets shelter from the plant. It has a living place, no? The plant provides a living place in the form of nodules for the rhizobium bacteria to live. So in turn the bacteria gets benefited by having a living place, and then also it takes the nutrients from the plants for its growth. It needs to grow, no? So for its survival, the nutrients are taken by the rhizobium from the plant. So in this mutual relationship, rhizobium gives nitrogen or nitrates to the plants, and rhizobium gets, what it gets? Living place, that is shelter, and also it gets the nutrients from the plants. In this way, both of them are benefited. There are also one more type of plants called insectivorous plants. What are they? Insectivorous plants. Have you heard this word? They are partially heterotrophic. What does this mean? These insectivorous plants are partially autotrophic, partially heterotrophic. Why it is called partially heterotrophic? Because they have chlorophyll, they can undergo photosynthesis, but they are nitrogen deficient, which means they cannot take nitrogen from the soil. Okay, so what it does, it will capture the insects surrounding it. If it happens to, insectivorous plants will trap the insects surrounding it, and it will digest the insects and get the nitrogen from the insect source. What did I tell you? Insectivorous plants are the plants which are able to trap the insects. Why it is doing this? Because it is only partially autotrophic. It can produce its food, but it cannot take the nitrogen. They are nitrogen deficient. So for getting nitrogen for its growth, it will trap the nearby insects. Whatever insects come nearby, it will trap the insects and then get the nitrogen from the insects. Okay, so the green leaves undergo photosynthesis, but they are nitrogen, they grow in nitrogen deficient soil. The soil where they grow will not have nitrogen. So what they do? They trap the insects, digest them and get the nitrogen source from the insects. There are 4 examples given in your text. The first example is pitcher plant. See, this is the pitcher plant. So what will happen? The insects will be trapped inside this. Okay, so when it is trapped, no, it will close. Actually, there is a leaf-like structure. Can you see here? There is a leaf-like structure. Once the insect gets inside, this will close. Like the door, it will shut the opening. There is an opening here, no? It will close once the insect is trapped. Then the plants will have digestive enzymes that can digest the insects and get the nitrogen from the insects. What is the purpose of trapping? The plant needs nitrogen because it will grow in nitrogen deficient soil. So to get the nitrogen, it is taking the insects and digesting them. So this is the first example. What is the second example? It is Venus flytrap. This is Venus flytrap plant. Can you see? It is open like this and there is an insect inside. So when insects get inside, this opening will shut like this. Clear? What is the name of the plant? Fly trap, and the shape is hinge shaped. Okay, this is also insectivorous plant. The third example given is bladderwort. This is bladderwort. Okay, it has a trap door. Actually, there is a opening here, just like pitcher plant, no? Similar to this, there is a opening here. So once the insect gets inside, it is trapped inside, and then the plants have digestive enzymes and they digest the insect and get the nitrogen source. This is example number 3. Example number 4 given in your text is sundew. The name of this plant is sundew. This how it attracts insects is, it has a sticky substance. The sundew plant will produce a sticky substance. Can you see water like droplets here? So this sticky substance will make the insect get trapped. The sticky substance will make the insect stick to this plant, sundew plant, and then again with the help of the enzymes, the insect is digested. So this is all about insectivorous plants. For your homework, read page number 76 to 78 in your biology textbook. Read your daily lessons. You will be having a class test once we finish this chapter. Okay, so that is all for today's biology class. Until I meet you tomorrow in your next zoology class, you all take care and bye bye.